Welcome back, friends, to the discussion of Syed Amanuddin's Don't Call Me Indo-Anglian. Hope you remember what we discussed in the previous class. The poet Syed Amanuddin in this poem, he challenges two things. One, the tradition of labeling a poet or giving a title to a writer with mixed cultures or names like Indo and Anglian. Now, this mixes, it is not just a joining of two words, but rather it is a mixing of two cultures and two identities. So that's what the poet is talking against in this poem. One. And number two, he also breaks the rules of the use of English language. So in this class, let's continue the discussion on the poem by considering a few lines at once. In the first stanza itself, the poem is written in free verse, remember, and also note that there are no capitalizations. Look at the first letter, N-O, no, N is not capital, I is not capital, right? This is how he breaks the rules of use of language. No, I don't want to be a hodgepodge of culture, a confusion of language, a nullity of imagination, an abortive affair between an Indo and an Anglo. Okay. In the beginning, he attacks the label makers. He says, do not call me with a mixed identity. It says, he doesn't want to belong to a confused mixed culture, that is Indo and Anglian, two cultures, two geographical locations and two or many more languages. No, he doesn't want to be called with this name. Mixed culture designates a confused language and zero imagination. He also says, no, in this mixture and hodgepodge is a mixture and confusion, there cannot be proper imagination. And for the poet, it is a fruitless, abortive here means a useless and fruitless business between Indo and Anglian. So, according to him, mixing or giving a mixed identity to a writer or mixing two languages and two cultures is like an unsuccessful relationship. He continues, I hate hyphens. He ruthlessly expresses what he does not like. Now he says, I hate hyphens. Hyphens in the sense, observe here, Indo-Anglian. In between there is a hyphen. Hyphen is something like a bridge that bridges these two ideas, cultures, and so on and so forth, Indo and Anglian. So this is what he says, I hate hyphens, the artificial bridges between artificial values in the name of race, religion and language. Look at this SMS language. And here it is not A and D, no, it is just N. I damn all hyphenated minds, prejudiced offsprings of unenlightened souls. I denounce all labels and label makers. So this is what he further argues, saying that bridging any two cultures with a hyphen is not good. It is artificial. It will not produce any meaning. And at the same time, labeling somebody or limiting some writer with religious considerations or racial images or by language is also not a healthy practice. He is rather angry at such people who create this mixture and call best or great. Let's continue the discussion. I refuse to be a moon rock specimen. Now he further says what he does not want to be and what he wants to be. What he does not want to be called, and he also expresses what he wants to be called and what he wants to be in a simple way. So now he says, I refuse to be a moon rock specimen. I don't want to be an example or some specimen to be tried and tested. No. A moon rock specimen to be analyzed, labeled, and stored for a curious, gloomy fellow to reanalyze, classify me, for shelving me again. No, I don't want to be that great poet who is researched upon. No, further research is done upon that. No, I don't want to be any of that sort of writers. I just want to be what I am, just a writer. He one therefore doesn't want to be the sample for analysis and labeling, storing for another to reanalyze, reclassify and research again. Now he comes back. They call me Indo-Anglian. I don't know why. I don't know what they mean by Indo-Anglian, because in my childhood, or even now, when I am grown up, what flows in my veins, ನನ್ನ ದೇಹದಲ್ಲಿ ನರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಹರಿತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದೇನು ರಕ್ತ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಕಾವೇರಿನೇ ಹರಿತಾ ಇರೋದು. ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ಬೇಕು ನಿಮಗೆ, ಕಾವೇರಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಹರಿತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮೈಸೂರು. ಇವರು ಸೈಯದ್ ಅಮಾನುದ್ದೀನ್ ಅವರು ಮೈಸೂರಿನವರು, ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಬೆಳೆದಂಥವ್ರು. ಸೊ ಈ ಸೇಸ್ ಕಾವೇರಿ flows in my veins, Chamundi hills rise in my mind with stars afloat. When I think of my native, what comes to my mind is, according to Syed Amanuddin, Chamundi hills and goddess Chamundi, her eyes, her face, and the sky with stars afloat. This is what comes to my mind. And I also imagine goddess smiling on the act of killing the demon, and Brindavan fountain also sings in my soul. See, this is how I have become a very localite of Mysore. So Mysore is there in all my body. I belong to this soil. When that is the case, why do you call me Indo-Anglian? That's what is his question. So when this is his identity, he doesn't like to be called Indo-Anglian. But I am not tied down to my childhood scene. No, not just that. Syed Amanuddin means not just a Mysorean. No. What I am, when I grew up, what I have become, I have led languages by their ears. Means to say, I have mastered a few languages. I have twisted creeds to force the truth out. Creeds here means principles. I have twisted some principles to so much that the truth would come out. No, that is to say, he has conducted research in pursuit of truth. I have burned candles in the caves of prejudice. No, he has tried to eradicate prejudice and tried to give knowledge. Here light means knowledge and caves suggest ignorance. Where there is darkness, that symbolizes ignorance. I have surged in the oceans of being. So in this life I am going on and on. I have flown across the universe on the wings of my thought. Yes, with my thoughts I have traveled all over the universe. Then who am I? Am I just a Mysorean? Am I just Indo-Anglian? Am I just an Indian writing in English? See, these are the questions that the poet poses. Further, he continues to attack these label makers, those who limit him. See, even when I am so and so, they call me Indo-Anglian. They call me so because they are mistaken, misinformed people. And they also class me with a small group of writers, cloistering me and crippling me. Now, intentionally labeling a poet or considering a poet is again a politics. By judging a poet or a writer by his religion or language or locality or race is yet another politics. That's what he is attacking here. Now, by limiting me to a small group of writers or localites, no, or to a group or to a religious minority, what they are trying to do is they are trying to handicap me. So he is unhappy that some ignorant people are trying to class him wrongly, which limits his growth. Rather, no, I don't want to be limited, narrow-minded, no, cornered. No, I would rather roam with Kalidasa and Kabir, two great writers, poets. Kalidasa. Now, you may remember Kalidasa's Meghaduta. Kalidasana Meghaduta, ಬಹಳ ಫೇಮಸ್ ಒಂದು ವರ್ಕ್ ಅದು. ಕಬೀರ್ ಅವರ ದೋಹಾ, ಕಬೀರ್ಸ್ ದೋಹಾ ಅಂತೇಳಿ, full of wisdom. So he says, no, I don't want to roam or classed with a small group of people who have narrow mind. Rather, I want to roam. No, I want to wander with Kalidasa and Kabir so that I can learn something about them. Or I would go on a spiritual journey with Dante. Dante is another philosopher. No, I would go on a journey with him so that I would learn the philosophy from him. I would also mediate with Omar Khayyam, another poet, Omar Khayyam, Persian poet, on the mathematics of existence. I would discuss with him the mathematics of life. Or I would even sing with Ghalib the anguish of love. Ghalib is a love poet. So I would sing with him the pain of love, and or I would drown with Li Po. Li Po is a Chinese poet. I would even drown ಅಂದರೆ ಮುಳುಗೋದು. Li Po ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಚಂದ್ರನ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರತಿಬಿಂಬ ಏನು ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇತ್ತು ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕಿಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. This is just an imagination, right? This is just an imagination. Beauty. So, like that of Li Po, I would kiss the moon's reflection in the river, and while kissing that moon's reflection in the river, I would drown. How does it matter? That means to say, I would drown in my imagination. Therefore, what he tries to say is, he does not like to be confined. He wants to roam with great poets, go for spiritual journey with Dante, discuss with Omar Khayyam on the philosophy of existence, and sing with Ghalib the pain of love, or drown with Li Po's imagination. Fine. Now in the last stanza he comes to a conclusion. Okay, When I am so and so, why do you call me Indo-Anglian? After this argument, he comes to a conclusion. It's true, yes. It's true that I write in English. Yes, I am a Kannadiga. I am born in Mysore. My mother tongue is something else, Urdu probably. But I write in English. Here I am reminded of Kamala Das, who also makes a choice of her own language. When somebody objected to her writing in English, she said, "It's my liberty to choose my own language. Who are you to tell me that I have to speak in Malayalam or English or Hindi or so on? Who are you to give me my language? I choose my language." So that's how Syed Amanuddin is also arguing, saying that yes, I write in English. I dream in the language of Shakespeare and Keats, two great literary persons in British literature, Shakespeare and Keats. But I am not an Anglo, my friend. No, just because I use English, I cannot be called an Englishman. Who am I then? I am a poet, my friend. I am a poet. Look at the stress here. Only where he uses capitalization for all the letters in this word poet. I have lived 40 centuries under various names, and I am now Amanuddin. He also believes in rebirth, previous birth and next birth, and so on. So he says, for 40 centuries I don't know with what name, in which country, with what language I lived and died. But in this century, I am called Amanuddin. In 40 centuries, I don't know how, with what names I lived. And now, who am I? I am a poet. So this is how he agrees that he writes in English and dreams in the language of Shakespeare and Keats. But he argues, for that matter, he cannot be considered Englishman. Finally, he declares he is just a poet. He transcends himself beyond the race, religion, nationality, language, and so on. So he doesn't want to be limited to any particular identity like Mysorean. No. Now, for the matter, he wrote in English. He doesn't want to be called an Englishman. No. And he even doesn't want to be called by the hybrid name, that is Indo and Anglian. No, he doesn't want to be called by or limited by race, religion, nationality, language, and so on. So this is how the poem is an experimentation in form, style, and content, wherein he challenges the conventions of branding a poet or a writer with mixed identity. He breaks the rules of language, punctuation, and style. It also shows his dissatisfaction with the convention of limiting a poet by his name, religion, country, language, and so on. Therefore, he declares he is just a poet, not limited by anything. The poem, in general, presents the identity crisis of a poet and writers in general. And the language used in this poem, form is freestyle, and the language, there is no capitalization and no punctuation. I hope all of you enjoyed this poem. Thank you.